For months, the world demanded answers. How could one of the most advanced aircraft in aviation history, the Boeing 787 Dreamliner, fall out of the sky just seconds after takeoff, killing 260 people without a single distress call? Theories poured in: flap misconfigurations, bird strikes, engine flameouts. Some said it was pilot error, others, suicide. A few even whispered conspiracy. But when the final report was quietly released, it did something no one expected. It didn't just rule out the noise. It didn't just dismantle every rumor. It pointed to one man, not as a scapegoat, but as the central figure behind a decision that Boeing, investigators, and regulators hoped would remain buried in technical ambiguity. And now, for the first time, we reveal not only the data behind the fall of Flight 171, but the man behind the crash. In the chaotic hours following the crash of Air India Flight 171, speculation spread faster than facts. Some focused on the flaps, arguing the aircraft had failed to generate lift. Others blamed the heat, the density altitude, the weight of the aircraft. A few latched onto the sound of a high-pitched buzz from mobile footage, identifying it as the unmistakable whir of the ram air turbine, deployed only in emergencies. And yet, none of those theories held. The final report confirmed. The flaps were set correctly. The aircraft was within weight limits. Weather was clear. No bird activity, no structural failure. The engines, functioning perfectly, until they weren't. Because 32 seconds after rotation, the plane lost all power. Not one engine, but two, and just seconds apart. It wasn't gradual, it wasn't explosive, it was deliberate. The report found that the fuel control switches had been manually moved, one after the other, from run to cutoff. And that action, in a Boeing 787, kills the engines. These are not switches that can be bumped. They require a lift, pull, and push, 3 deliberate steps. And that's where the report turned away from speculation and toward someone inside the cockpit. The fuel control switches are the last step of a flight, not the first. They're used to shut down the engines after landing, after the aircraft is parked, after everything is safe. They are not used in flight, ever. The FAA knows this. Boeing knows this. And every pilot flying a 787 is drilled to never touch them outside of highly specific ground operations. Yet the final report confirmed that both switches were flipped just seconds into climb. Not by a software glitch, not by an electrical short, but by physical hand movement. The evidence? The switch positions were captured on the flight data recorder. The timing, 1 second apart. Left engine first, then right. The same sequence used at the gate to power down. There was no indication of system failure. The engines were healthy. The RAT deployed as designed. The APU attempted to restart, but nothing could reverse the loss of thrust at such low altitude. The aircraft plummeted and struck a hostel near BJ Medical College, leaving behind a trail of debris, a wall of fire, and the deepest mystery of the Dreamliner era. So if the switches were moved, who moved them? Buried in the final section of the report, amid data logs, fuel analyses, and procedural reviews, was a name: Captain Sumit Subharwal, a veteran pilot with over 11,000 hours of flight time, a man trained in emergency procedures, engine-out protocols, and Dreamliner systems. According to internal assessments, he passed all simulator checks, all medical exams, and was cleared for the flight. But in the weeks leading up to Flight 171, something changed. According to media outlets and unnamed sources cited in the final report, Sumit had recently undergone a difficult divorce. His colleagues noted subtle changes in behavior, tension, isolation, nothing dramatic, nothing that triggered official concern. But now, post-crash, investigators began to piece together a psychological profile, one that hinted cautiously at the possibility of deliberate action. The report never used the word suicide. It didn't have to. It described switch movements inconsistent with emergency protocols. It confirmed no alerts were issued. No miscommunication, no mistake, just movement, precise, confident, intentional, and no known software or mechanical system capable of initiating it on its own. And while Boeing remained silent, the implications were loud. If Captain Sumit really did flip the switches, why? Was it a moment of madness? A cry for help? A calculated act? or something more sinister? A perfectly timed move that aligned with Boeing's greatest need, to shift blame away from the plane? Because blaming the pilot comes with advantages, massive financial ones. If the crash was mechanical, Boeing faces lawsuits, settlements, and scrutiny, possibly exceeding $600 million. But if it was a deliberate act by the captain, the insurance landscape changes. Liability shifts, claims are reduced, some are voided entirely. And just like that, the most damning technical failure in Boeing's Dreamliner program becomes an issue of human psychology. But here's the thing. The final report offered no motive, no suicide note, no mental health diagnosis, no cockpit lockout, no history of instability. It provided data, switch positions, timelines, audio, but no why. And that void in the hands of billion-dollar corporations becomes a convenient blank canvas. Paint the pilot, move on, protect the brand. After the final report pointed to Captain Sumit Subharwal as the man who triggered the crash, many within the aviation community weren't convinced. Air India's pilot union issued a formal statement condemning the implication, stating that there was no conclusive evidence of intentional sabotage. In response, both Air India and the Ministry of Civil Aviation ordered an independent set of simulations using the exact flight profile of 171. Weather, weight, speed, altitude, engine condition, all recreated precisely. Multiple scenarios were tested: accidental fuel starvation, electrical glitches, auto-throttle mismanagement, even the unlikely idea of simultaneous dual-engine flameout. But none of them led to the same sequence. The only simulation that matched the flight path, power loss curve, and switch behavior was the one where the fuel control levers were deliberately moved by the captain. Even more unsettling, when simulated on modern 787 systems, no alert was generated for the cutoff. The aircraft simply obeyed. No digital resistance, no human challenge, no time to question, just a glide path toward catastrophe. And in those findings, the question didn't disappear, it got sharper. If this wasn't intentional, what else could it have been? Among the final words recorded in the cockpit voice recorder were not screams or alarms, but a calm, brief, and chilling exchange. One pilot asked, "Why did you cut off?" And the reply, "I did not cut off." There was no shouting, no struggle, no warning, just confusion. Analysts trained in psychoacoustic stress analysis reviewed the tone of voice, cadence, and breathing. The verdict: both pilots were in shock, but one voice, the one denying responsibility, showed a shift in tone, suggesting either disbelief or deflection. No cockpit fight occurred, no override attempt. The switches were turned off, and then turned back on nearly 10 seconds later, after the aircraft had already passed its point of no return. The left engine began spooling up again. The right engine never recovered. Investigators marked this moment as delayed recovery due to extended cutoff duration. In short, even though someone tried to fix it, it was too late. But the haunting question remained: who flipped the switches, and why wasn't it stopped immediately? Boeing's internal position has been clear since the beginning. The aircraft functioned perfectly. All systems responded as programmed. The engines shut down when the switches were moved. The RAT deployed as expected. The relight sequence initiated. The APU started. FADEC engaged. Nothing failed. No fire. No sensor malfunction. No missing part. It was a textbook shutdown, initiated mid-air. And that's Boeing's defense. We built a machine that did exactly what it was told. But what they don't mention is that the system has no safeguard against catastrophic human error in this one very specific scenario. No "are you sure" prompt. No lockout based on airspeed or pitch. Nothing to prevent a routine gate procedure from happening during the most dangerous phase of flight. This design choice, leaving fuel cutoffs entirely manual and unprotected, has now killed 260 people. And yet, Boeing walked away from the final report with its systems validated, because the switches worked. The failure wasn't digital, it was human. That loophole gave them legal shelter and moral exposure. After the report's release, Captain Sumich's family issued a statement. They described him as a loving father, disciplined professional, and someone who would never harm anyone, much less hundreds of passengers. Friends and colleagues rallied to his defense. There were no signs, no breakdowns, no complaints, just routine, until June 12th, And yet, his name now lives at the center of a crash that Boeing survived, and he did not. No one else can testify, no one else can explain. The CVR captured no confession, the data shows no motive. But someone flipped those switches, and the official narrative, delivered by the final report, doesn't point to faulty design, bad software, or corporate negligence. It points to him. But what if he didn't do it? What if that answer was simply more convenient? What if we accepted silence as guilt because we couldn't prove innocence? And what if, in doing so, we let the one true vulnerability in the Dreamliner system remain exactly where it was, waiting? Captain Sumit Subharwal may never be able to defend himself. He may never explain what happened inside that cockpit, what he saw, what he thought, or what he did. But the final report doesn't need his voice. It points to his hand, to the motion of two switches that should never be moved in flight, 1 second apart, left, then right. And with that movement, 260 lives were erased. But buried beneath that data is something deeper, something Boeing never wants to talk about. The silence of a system that watched everything unfold and did nothing. No interlock, no override, no warning, just trust. Trust that the pilot would never do the unthinkable. And when that trust was tested, the aircraft followed its programming into the ground. And so Boeing walks away with its systems declared functional, its design validated, and its legal exposure narrowed to the decisions of a man who can no longer speak. But this wasn't just about Sumit. This was about a failure to imagine the unimaginable. About switches that were never supposed to be touched, yet weren't protected. About a system that required perfection from humans, but offered no defense against their imperfection. What the final report really reveals isn't just the man behind the crash. It reveals a truth the industry has long tried to bury, that sometimes the most dangerous failure is one that comes with no error code. If this story shook you, if it made you question who gets blamed and who gets protected, then don't let it vanish in a footnote. Subscribe for more investigations into the truth behind the headlines.